Going to part 2 if I think you guys are lying, because if you really want to makeup tutorials, you'd be watching my videos and you would learn something, and I promise if you go to the end of this video, you will learn something. If you go to part 1, you'll learn like 16 things. I drop so much information and knowledge in these videos, and I feel like maybe that's the reason my videos actually don't do as well as they could do. This is the Versed skin tint. They're multi-serum skin tint with SPF 40, which is good because I've actually already prepped with SPF. We talked about that in part 1. But I just feel like we're talking about how we want to see these videos, but then we're not watching them whenever they get put out. Or maybe that's just been my experience. I don't know. I'm trying this skin tint for the first time. Again, if you want to see how I did the eyes, go to part 1, but I'm just dropping so much information. I can never fit it into one part, and I'm not going to let that stop me from still trying to give this information to you guys. So you can still do a skin tint even if you have like a more done up eye. I feel like sometimes maybe people don't realize that, or they don't they mismatch things where full coverage has to be like a full glam eye and vice versa. You could have the fullest glam face and nothing on your eye, and honestly I think that's a look and like a total slay. I really love the look of that. But yeah, you can mix it up. So this is a skin tint, but I've got a pretty done up eye look right now that's not finished. I just wanted to try the skin tint out because I haven't yet. I haven't before, and it's very hydrating, very serum-y, very dewy. I just would say, like, directly right off the bat, if you have oily skin, I would probably not reach for this one. It is just too on the hydrating side that you'd have to do so much just to make this, like, kind of work for oily skin. And I feel like people also reach for skin tints more often in the summer, so keeping that in mind. This is the Kosas Extra Eye Brightener. I'm just using a little bitty bit of this. As you can see, this actually isn't the lightest shade. I don't know where that one went, and I don't want to accidentally darken my under eyes because I'm technically not using the right shade, but this is just gonna help that like light peachy tone to counteract any of the blue that I have, since I am going for a slightly lighter coverage look. So that's just gonna like color correct and look like nothing really happened. Want to know the biggest scam and secret of the beauty industry? That's that the under eye concealers are never not going to crease. Now there are some that settle more than others and will be thicker and accentuate the under eye lines, fine lines, dehydration lines more. But no matter what you do, every single concealer underneath the eye is going to quote unquote crease, because that is what the under eye is already doing, is creasing. Anytime you use a sponge, if it's not damp, there's no point in you using it. It's soaking up all of your product and giving you the most sheared out, probably uneven coverage of your life and working against you, versus if you completely saturate it and wring it out in its entirety, it's not going to absorb as much product because the sponge already has water absorbed within it, and it's just going to give you a really nice sheer overall blend on your complexion products. Now, I hear so many people tell me every single day when a video gets traction of mine, they had no idea they were supposed to be using a sponge wet. If you're using a sponge in any other condition besides completely saturated and fully wrung out, then you are absolutely doing yourself a disservice and probably making it harder on yourself to get a really nice, even complexion. And it just it blows my mind every single time that there's still so many people out there that don't realize that. So please be using a damp sponge. I do like the way the skin tint looks on my skin, but yeah, I just don't think I would reach for it if you were oily. Now, did you guys know there's absolutely no rules in the order of which you apply brush, bronzer, or concealer? But a lot of people do their bronzer, then their blush, and then they go in with their concealer to kind of clean up their blush, because a lot of people have been over blushing. Nowadays, it's kind of the trend, which is okay, not judging. I'm just saying that's kind of like the example that you probably have been shown recently. I like to do concealer, blush, and then bronzer. Sometimes I'll do bronzer first, but I can always go back and forth with my sponge and kind of tailor things to be really blurred out and really blended and airbrush looking, which is always the vibe that I'm going for. When you put blush on your cheeks, you are accentuating where you would want that flush of your skin to be. And if you only put it on your cheeks after we've used a skin tint, concealer, complexion product, foundation to fully blank out this canvas, it makes things look more intentional and more realistic, and like your skin actually looks like this cohesive overall. Like, we're not trying to fool people. You know I have makeup on. But the reason we put it in these other areas of our face is to give us a really cohesive look. Same with the bronzer. If you hollow out your cheekbones, why aren't you going in and defining all the bone structure on the rest of your face? And I mean that so sincerely, like, why would you not be doing that? You know, because it's going to give a more cohesive look, which is going to make your makeup look more makeup-y, look more intentional, look like you spent more time on it. All of the things. All of these things are good things. So when I go and hollow out my cheeks with bronzer here, if I can get this hair out of the way, when I'm doing my own makeup, if there's a hair on my face, I just kind of blend around it and I don't ever worry about it. But when I'm filming, it's always like a big deal. I don't know. Anyway, so here I've started to bronze up my cheeks and kind of, this is more neutral, I think. It's not really cool. It's a little warm, showing up a little warm on my skin. So, it will give the definition, it'll give my cheeks more definition. I lost my train of thought there. But it also will kind of bronze up my cheeks, like, as if I've been in the sun for a long period of time. There's, like, a little bit. Feels like it was, like, catching. So I'm going to put this on the sides of my forehead as well, because my bone structure needs to be accentuated there in my mind, as well as along my jawline and down the sides of my nose. And also, I did the same when I put bronzer in my eye crease and a little bit of blush on the edges of that too, just to like kiss it and make everything make sense. And I'm also going to do the same to my lips. Now, if you want everything to be nice and even and make sure that everything is perfected, go over it really gently with your damp beauty blender, and this is going to make everything all perfectly blended and cohesive and make sure nothing's settling into fine lines or wrinkles and accentuating anything, and that you haven't missed anything. It's just kind of like my cheat code for making sure everything's really, really beautiful and laid down beautifully without having to work too hard. I've got like a little hair and it's making me itch. There are all kinds of different effects and results that we can be getting with makeup, but that we might want to get with makeup. Now, one of the things that I have done is my eyes prior to, I've done my eyes already prior to doing my base. So I'm going to gently go back over the under eye with a brush before I go in and set, just to kind of blend this out, because I want it to be airbrush and flawless, not look like I went back over it with cream. Last time to set was powder, and I recently picked up this powder from About Face. This is in the shade Veil, and I am loving it. Like, she's so good. She gives the most velvet like finish. Like, it's not super mattifying, but it'll take away all the shine and makes my skin look like actual velvet. I'm not entirely sure how to say it. There's also not a whole lot of color payoff. It's kind of translucent, which I prefer, and if there is some color to it, it's so light that it doesn't make a huge difference. I don't really want my powders to be changing my complexion products, because I go through and choose my complexion products very strategically to show up and look a certain way. So when my powder changes that can disrupt the overall end product of my makeup. But it also doesn't help people who don't know how to do their makeup. Like, that can be very confusing when you think everything looks good and then you go in and set with powder, and that's actually what's disrupting everything, and you're not. At that point, you're over it, right? You're in a rush, you're in a hurry, you've got a fast life, like maybe you're not paying attention, and you're not even realizing that is happening. So anyway, I just really, really, really like the finish that this gives my makeup. But if you're using any cream, liquid, powder at all whatsoever, and you're not using a powder, you are doing it wrong. You have to set all of these products. It's like the equivalent of using spackle before painting a wall and not letting it dry and it just pilling up everywhere. It's not going to stay. It's not going to last. It's not going to look smooth. It's not going to look good, and it's going to transfer all over everything. It's going to be a mess. Use powder. You go back in with a hydrating spray. If you're oily, don't use a hydrating spray. If you're dry, go back in with a hydrating spray, and it will melt all those powders in and look a lot less powdery. Why does everyone use powders and creams? Why are we putting cream bronzers, cream blushes down, and then going in with powders? Why are we doing that? Well, first of all, it makes everything look really airbrushed and blended with very minimal effort. Secondly, these are light, intentional layers to your makeup that the environmental factors and things around you have to work their way through before your makeup starts to wear off in certain areas or places, or your definition is lost. And number three, it makes your makeup last longer. So all of the reasons. You don't have to do this. Like, I could skip the powder blush step if I wanted, but I'm not going to, because it makes my makeup last longer. It looks more intentional, looks more cohesive, looks more blended, and all of this takes such minimal effort. I'm not having to sit here and blend one single product for 45 minutes because I know I'm going to put a second product over it, and it's going to give this light veil and wash of color, and that technique and the way that I'm doing it is going to give this really nice airbrushed, flawless finish. Another way you can use powders is to brighten up the under eye. So this is a finishing powder foundation, and I just like to put it in my inner corner of my eye right there. Another way to layer powders, and another way that you're going to get the end result that you want. Very many light intentional layers. What did you learn from this video? What did you learn from me doing my makeup with you? I want to know, what have you learned from other people that's changed your makeup game? Let us all know in the comments so we can learn from you and we can all do our makeup better. Just remember, makeup is meant to be fun and doesn't actually have any rules. Just as long as you're having fun, that's all that matters.